If someone were to ask me what the biggest movie of my life was, I'd tell them it was The Dark Knight. Bigger than Avatar, bigger than Endgame, bigger than everything. This was not a movie. It was an event. It was a cultural shift. On July 18th, 2008, a genre and an industry were turned on their heads. The bar had been raised, and 12 years later, the film is every bit as relevant as it was when it first came out. This is not going to be a review of The Dark Knight. I mean, what can you say that hasn't already been said? This is one of the most analyzed, talked about, and well-reviewed films of all time. There's really not an angle I could attack this at if I were just doing a straight review for it. This essay will be a discussion about this movie's legacy and mainly, my personal connection to the film. Like I said, the year was 2008, one of the defining years of my life. At the beginning of that year, I started reviewing movies on YouTube. 12 years later, I'm back at it again. Time is a flat circle, my friends. This was the movie I was most looking forward to that summer. The hype was everywhere. At the time, I lived on this old movie review site called Spill.com. That site was like a second home for me. And even though it went under in 2013, that site was such a huge reason why my love of film has expanded the way it has over the last 12 years. I'll forever be grateful for those guys. I miss them. Anyway, the message board on that website was insane with Dark Knight hype. The constant back and forth regarding fan theories and predictions for that movie only built up my anticipation. I remember at the same time James Rolfe, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd, was doing his Batathon for Cinemassacre. I probably watched that about 20 times back in the day. I'm sure I was bothering people at the university club every day on the tennis courts talking about how amazing The Dark Knight was going to be. I think I even got my own mother excited. Well, she probably just wanted me to stop talking about it. The hype was already enormous. This thing was going to be a massive financial success, but then the reviews started rolling in. And the hype for this movie, one of the biggest films already of the decade, went from massive to volcanic. I remember the first review that was posted for this film. It was from Peter Travers of Rolling Stone, a fairly reliable source. I like Peter Travers, smart guy, pretty good taste in movies, good interviewer, and his review, which was posted about a full month before the film's release, was the first sign that we were in for something special. He gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4, claiming the haunting and visionary Dark Knight soars on the wings of untamed imagination. A bit of a flowery sentiment, but it also added to the hype this film was receiving. Over the next few weeks, more and more reviews rolled in. And to this day, I've never seen film critics respond to a movie with such hyperbolic and downright giddy praise. Minus a few naysayers and full of themselves contrarians, every review was glowing. Not just glowing, dazzling. Even the snootiest of critics were claiming this as one of the best films of the year, with many more saying that it was quite possibly one of the greatest movies ever made. Critics were talking about this film the way I talk about great films with my buddies, with a, oh my god, it's so good, kind of sentiment that I'd never seen up to that point and haven't seen since. The review I always remember, the one that I kind of look at as the definitive excerpt in terms of praise for this film, comes from Christopher Smith of Bangor Daily News in Maine. So here it is, the best superhero movie ever. The Dark Knight deftly accomplishes all one could hope for, and then it surpasses it, and then it continues to surprise. This movie isn't just a triumph. It is a rare pop culture oddity. A masterpiece. A masterpiece. No films get called masterpieces, especially not so soon after their release, and especially not a film of that genre. But he was right. They were all right. What film fans from my generation were seeing was something that we hadn't seen before, and it's not really something that we've seen since. And that's the biggest movie of the year, maybe even of the decade, was also the year's best reviewed film. This was like a tornado, a perfect storm of circumstances. It became the summer of Batman. Everywhere you went, you saw Heath Ledger's face. People were going to the premiere with their face painted like the Joker or dressed up like Batman. And they came out of the film with their eyes glazed over, amazed by what they just witnessed. The Dark Knight moved the goalposts. It raised the bar regarding how good a film of its kind could be. Hell, it kind of raised the bar regarding how great film could be. I've said this before, but The Dark Knight to so many people was their Star Wars. And I know many people will say, what about the Marvel movies? Aren't those kind of this generation's Star Wars? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they are to some people. And I love those movies. The last thing I want to do is come on here and disparage Marvel or the universe they created. But something like Avengers Endgame took 11 years of build-up and unique storytelling for it to gain the audience that it did. The Dark Knight was one movie. Yeah, it had the advantage of being a sequel to a great movie in Batman Begins, but Batman Begins wasn't that big of a hit. Batman as a character was kind of damaged goods after Batman and Robin. It took Nolan telling a remarkable story with Begins for Batman to become relevant in mainstream cinema again. I've often wondered where my love of film would be if not for this movie. Would it still be as fervent? I think so. But I think what The Dark Knight did for fans like me was it told us that it's okay to expect better, to want more, not just to accept the mediocre fare of summer movies we've seen every year. Maybe this film is accidentally responsible for a generation of nitpick artists and wannabe movie critics, but it's also responsible for a generation of creators and reliable critics. I want you to think of all your favorite movie critics on YouTube right now. Odds are a lot of them owe a big part of their love of film to this movie. I've gone almost this entire video without bringing up Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker. Like I said, this isn't meant to be a review, but any chance I get to talk about this performance is a chance I'm going to take. This character is an icon. Heath Ledger is an icon. Even the people who might not love this movie the way I do can acknowledge that Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker is one of the great film performances of all time. He deserved the awards that he posthumously received. He deserved the iconic status this character achieved. We would all be lying if we didn't say that part of our interest in seeing this movie was to see the final completed performance of Heath Ledger's life. And as I've gotten older and gained a bit more perspective regarding my own mortality, I can't tell you how goddamn sad it is that that man is gone. You watch him in this movie, you don't see Heath Ledger. You see a man lost in a character, a star on screen, a legend in the making gone way, way too soon. Heath Ledger was going to be Brando, or Nicholson, or Daniel Day-Lewis, a man who was going to achieve the status that only a few in his profession have ever achieved. And then he left us. And while he's gone, his legacy remains immortal. Thank you, Heath. Personally, The Dark Knight will always be sacred to me, because there's so much nostalgia attached to it. Like I said, I was 13 when this movie came out. I remember everything. I remember talking about it with my friends. I remember the experience of seeing it. I remember riding my bike around the neighborhood pretending it was the Bat Pod. I remember the Batathon. I remember Spill.com just going crazy with praise towards this movie. I remember all of it. I miss all of it. Life was so much easier back then. I just didn't realize it at the time. We all love dumb stuff when we're kids, but there really is something special about a film that you love as a child that actually gets better over time. I loved The Dark Knight when I was 13. I loved the action, I loved the Joker, I loved how quotable the movie was, but over time, I've actually grown a greater appreciation for it. I'm so blown away by its boldness, the creativity behind the camera, the cinematography, the themes of chaos, anarchy, and what it means to be a hero. It's all so perfect. It's a film with the style of a summer blockbuster and the substance of an Academy Award-winning drama. It's the bar that so many other Hollywood films have tried to reach over the last 12 years. And while some have come close, none have succeeded. The reason I'm making this video right now is because in a few weeks, Christopher Nolan's newest film, Tenet, is going to be released in theaters. And I can't wait to see it. Nolan was kinda given a free pass by Hollywood to make whatever he wanted after the success of The Dark Knight. I get amped for every one of his movies because this is the man responsible for The Dark Knight. And for the 13-year-old in Michigan, that was his movie. 12 years later, I've come to love it even more. So many of us have. I'm part of the group that this film inspired. I'm proud to be part of Generation Dark Knight.